Good afternoon. It is 4:15 p.m. This is the July 14th Fairfield Historic District Commission meeting. The notice of this hearing was published in the Friday, July 1st, 2022 edition of the Fairfield Citizen. Attendance is as follows. Art.
Art Gravanis, Commissioner, thank you.
Chris.
Shay, Commissioner.
Darren.
Aaron Raymond Locke, Commissioner.
Jim.
James P. Bohan, alternate commissioner.
George. George. You're muted, George. I think you're still muted, George. So George is here, and Elisa.
Alyssa Stack, alternate. I'm here too.
Thank you. I am Rosina Negron, the vice chair, and I will be chairing the meeting. Chris Shea will be chairing item 3 of the application today. Let's see. The voting of alternates is in the following order: Bohan, Clark, and Stack. So we will need 2 alternates on the 3rd project. So we will have Stack and Bohan on that project and then continue from there. Okay? Let's start the public hearing. The first project is Town of Fairfield, 370, 725, and 611 Old Post Road, Fairfield, Connecticut, 06824, for a property located at 370, 725, 611 Old Post Road in Fairfield. Item A is proposed paving for added parking space, improved egress from the property. B, roadway stripping and crosswalks for improved pedestrian safety. And C, proposed sidewalk for improved pedestrian access. Do we have anyone in attendance to present this project?
Sorry, I just removed it a little bit.
Yep.
Hi. Sorry, what was that last one?
The item C is proposed sidewalk for improved pedestrian access.
On the one in Old Town Hall, I presume?
Yes. All 3.
Okay, yeah.
It's the application that you put forward.
Yes, yeah. So yes, I'm here.
If you can put the video, and if you want to share the documents that you submitted to HDC.
Sorry, I don't have video on this camera.
Okay.
I haven't done a lot of meetings here. I can explain what I submitted. I assume you already have the application, correct?
We have the application, but do you want me to share for you then, so that everyone
sure.
else can see the application? Okay.
Sure thing, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Alrighty. So first off, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anthony Santiago. I'm with the engineering department at the town of Fairfield. And just wanted to mention, so a couple of weeks back, the Public Works Department, along with the Engineering Department, has sent an application to the Historical Commission to add improvements to Town Hall. This is similar to a previous application that was approved years back that had expired before the work could be done. Originally, the plan was to improve the parking lot with an addition of permeable pavement. In this new application, the permeable pavement option is still an option, but we also add an option for traditional pavement along with on-site detention as well. Okay. So in this application, what's that?
Can anyone see the drawings that are being shared?
I see it.
I'm gonna get to the drawings. Hold on. Right there. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Actually, if you could scroll up 2 drawings if you could.
Sorry.
Oh. Okay, so this one here, we can start here. So we have 3 sections in the back of the Independence Hall parking lot that we wanted to add pavement. Sections 1A and 1B are sort of in the application, and then section 1C is sort of an add alternate if we wanted to add extra space there. That'll be, well, we would decide that at a later time, the section 1C. And then toward the top of the drawing, we have a line representing a 2-foot section on that access road along Beach Road at the entrance of the Fairfield Museum, along with a crosswalk so that pedestrians walking on the street can access the museum. If you can go to the next drawing below. So this is at the base of what I guess Google Maps calls Independence Hall Access Road, right in front of the old Academy and the old Town Hall. We are proposing to put a crosswalk on that area there, which would connect the back of Fairfield Museum to the old Academy, and also adding ADA curbing for access to the old Academy and to Fairfield Museum. And then we're also proposing about 164 feet or so of new concrete sidewalk with concrete curbing. This would go up in front of Old Academy and around that curve toward the top and end at the existing asphalt sidewalk, which would be at the end of the old Post Road entrance into Town Hall. If you could scroll to the one below, please. So this is actually not part of the application per se, but there are a couple of things going on as well. The blue represents the majority of the old Town Hall parking lot, as well as the entrance to Town Hall from Old Post Road. All of this is planning to be repaved for general maintenance. However, if you, hang on 1 second, sorry. If you see on the top left corner, there is a red area and a green area. The egress to Old Town Hall, which is now a Y section, is going to be repaved into one large T section. That part is part of the application. I think that about covers it. There was something else I wanted to mention. This is not part of the not part of the application, but actually if you see on that drawing with the parking lot, at the entrance of Old Post Road into Town Hall, there you see two crosswalks. There will be adding a third crosswalk with a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. This would allow pedestrians to press a button to get a walk signal, but instead of it being on a street corner where it would be timed with street lights, it would just be a flashing beacon under a pedestrian walking sign, which would allow oncoming traffic to see that someone's hit the button and to allow them to cross. To my knowledge, this has already been approved by the police commission. This is more of a safety measure for the road. Sorry, looking at my notes here, it's been approved by the police commission as well as St. Paul's Church and First Church Congregational to have that put in.
Okay. Anything else you would like to show in your presentation or say?
Let me look over. I think that's about, yeah, I think that's about it. All right, any questions?
So, let's see. Art, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you for your presentation. I didn't see, unless I missed it, I didn't see any details of the curbing that you proposed. You know, any specific plans of where it's going to go, and the extent of it. And also, I don't really know the difference between the permeable paving and the impermeable paving. And it seemed like there was kind of an option. You may do it or you may not do it. And then I'm also confused about this flashing light on the Old Post Road, and I didn't see any details of what that looks like.
Okay. So starting from the top, before the visuals that were shown to you, I hadn't shown this in the presentation, but I did have graphs and breakdowns of what the permeable pavement and the regular pavement would entail. The regular pavement would be constructed to town specs. So we have town details for those. I did not include them in here, but those are public knowledge and easily accessible. I could.
Does that pavement look differently than the regular blacktop pavement?
For the most part, no. It'll still look like asphalt for the most part. It's just that water will be able to seep through it essentially.
And the pavement that is impermeable, would you be doing like catch basins for that with maybe like a Coltex system or something, or?
We've thought about doing catch basins and Coltex. In the back of Independence Hall lot, there are already a couple of catch basins there. So we would be pitching things toward the catch basins. But aside from that, we're actually looking to do long, deep trenches right outside the parking lot. So the runoff would be pitched toward the end of the parking lot and go into a large stone trench.
Okay, and is that shown on the drawings anywhere?
It's not shown on the drawings, but in the breakdown in the graphs beforehand, there are dimensions for the trenches.
Okay,
The trenches would run the length of each section, 1A, 1B, and 1C, and then they would also go 3 feet beyond and then 5 feet down. Sorry. Yes, 3 feet beyond and 5 feet down.
are these
Sorry,
like,
you would also have.
so the trenches would they be maybe made of riprap or something, or would they be lawn?
Not riprap, smaller than riprap. Usually would be anywhere from 3/4 inch to maybe 1.5 inches of crushed stone. So this would be angular stone that's then compacted.
Okay.
And I believe
Anything else?
you also had I think you also had a question about the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, correct?
Yeah, and the curbing too. I didn't really see where you had indicated the extent of the new curbing. And is it like cast in place concrete curbing or granite curbing or
It will
blacktop?
be. It is concrete curbing. It runs it runs 164 feet, so it's from one end of the ADA curb in front of the old academy that runs in front of the old academy and then goes around toward the old post road entrance to town hall.
Okay.
On the first drawing I showed, it outlines 164 feet of concrete sidewalk with curb, so it's that same stretch.
Okay.
To answer your question about the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, again, this is not part of the application that I sent. I'm essentially filling in for Bill Hurley, the engineering manager here, and he thought it pertinent to let you know what was going on in the area. So it's not part of the application itself. However, it is a safety measure for the road that again has already been approved by the St. Paul Church, First Church Congregational, and the Police Commission. So I'm just letting you know that that's also going on in conjunction with the details of this application.
So are you saying that this flashing mechanism, uh, crosswalk assisting item is going to be installed and it's not coming before the Historic District Commission? That you're just letting us know about it?
I think so. To my knowledge, it's not coming before you.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Darren, do you have anything?
No questions from me.
Okay. And Jim, you will be voting on this one, so do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will move on to the second application. Graham and
Excuse me,
Catherine
could I ask a question? Hello?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, this
yes.
is a member of the public. It's Jack Franson.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a couple questions. The building was designed by Cameron Clark, and I can't remember the exact date, but it was, I think in the late 90s or early 2000s, the town and the Historic District Commission and a group of volunteers did a lot of restoration work on the building and completely refurbished the lobby. And Bob Hatch personally took charge of the bluestone patio in front and the steps. And I helped him do it. And my concern would be when they jackhammer all the asphalt out of the driveway, I just hope that there's no plan to disturb any of the stonework, the risers or the little planters or the bluestone treads that are on the building. And also, I have a question. There are leaders that come from the roof down and they go into that patio. And it seems to me the patio looks really deteriorated and it looks like it needs to be refurbished again. And I would like to know if the town is aware where those leaders go, where the water goes. Is that water leaking into the patio? And if the driveway is going to be torn up, wouldn't it be a good time to figure out where that water goes and maybe it should go into your detention area? And lastly, if you're going to put riprap or stone in a trench, I think it would look much better if it was like a washed stone or a rounded stone, a native type stone from a local quarry instead of crushed rock. And those are my questions.
Thank you, Jack.
All right. I do agree with you. If we are going to repave the lot, it would be a good idea to see where those roof leaders go. We're just in the preliminary stages here, so we would have to investigate the area to see to make sure we take care of the setting, what's normally there before we start jackhammering the lot, as you put it. So yeah, we will definitely take measures to not disturb the setting any more than we have to. That includes the bluestone, and then seeing where the roof leaders in the patio go. As for your last point, having washed stone in the trench, I also agree with that. I will absolutely look into that. Definitely put washed stone, even if it's just the top 3 or 4 inches. I will most definitely look into that and pass that on.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that has any questions or comments?
Yes, I'm John Wozalewski. I'm a member of the public and a local architect. And I just had a couple of comments. I found the presentation a little difficult to follow, and I'm sure that the members of the commission are very aware how important this property is as a historic town green, and that it's a collection of some of the more important and iconic properties and buildings in the town. And I think you know, we often hold the residents of the town to a very, very high standard in terms of any of the things that they do, in terms of understanding the scope and the visual impact of what they're doing. And I think for efforts and for gestures that are probably far less than what is being suggested today. And so my concern is that there be sufficient information provided so that the town is held to the same standard as any of its residents in terms of the impact that the work they're opposing might have on the green itself. I know that there was a study done not so long ago for paving in this area. It looks like that's sort of been you know, that's been cast to the side, and that's fine. I haven't really followed what's the history of it since then, but it does seem like given the importance of the property, this merits more attention and detail than is suggested in the presentation. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you,
Okay.
John.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next one. Graham and Catherine Nitt, 160 Harbor Road, Southport, Connecticut, 06890 for a property located at 160 Harbor Road, Southport, Connecticut. The 2 items are install path lights at front path and install lights at driveway. Do we have anyone in the public to present? Christina, go ahead. You might be muted. No, for a second it was, but.
Is that good? Can you hear me?
Now
Yeah?
it's good, yes.
Okay, great. I'm Christina Gates. I'm the landscape architect representing Graham and Catherine Nick at their property at 160 Harbor Road. And as just mentioned, I have 2 items in our application today. I'm going to try to share my screen. I know last time I have a new computer, I had a little trouble, but hopefully it works this time. So let's give it a shot. Screen share. All right, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh my God, hallelujah. Okay, it worked. Okay. So this property at 160 Harbor is located at the base of Harbor Road down by the bridge. And I brought this property before the commission before, but to kind of refamiliarize you with the home, there's a beautiful red barn in the rear and a pretty home over here. And we installed a pergola in this side and these terraces a few years ago. In that initial application, we had some landscape lighting in that application, but we never installed it. And since we've installed the rest of the landscape, we've decided to make some changes to the lighting that we had approved, and that's what I'm presenting today. Go back to the site plan. So the first item is fixture A, which is right here. They have this kind of half circle driveway pull off at the front of their home. And we have a gravel path that goes up to a garden gate. And we have 2 path lights. If you can see my cursor, there's one here and one here at the top. Originally, we considered putting in 2 path lights on either side, but we know that the commission likes to keep the lighting very low. So we opted to do the lighting on just one side. The original application had the lighting on the right-hand side, and now we're shifting it over to the left-hand side. This is the fixture, which we've used in Southport before on different properties. It's a pretty simple path light. It won't exceed 16 inches, and it has a really nice soft glow to it. This is just a small photo rendering of where the path lights would be, so you can kind of get a more visual idea of how it would look from the street. Those aren't actually the fixtures, those are just little sticks that represent the fixtures. So that is item A. We have a little bit of ambient light from the house, and that's why we wanted to move these fixtures over here to the left, so that when people park at night, they can get up to the rear property and have it be safely lit for them. Our second item is fixture B. I'll go back to the site plan. Here we go. And in this item, we are proposing 2 lights at the driveway entrance on either side of the driveway, just in front of the driveway apron. These lights would not be the same fixture. I drove around Southport to try to look at how people are lighting their kind of entrances and their driveways. And I saw this fixture and thought it was very successful. I drove by it at night, but it's just a very thin, has the same finish, very thin post, and it casts a nice soft light down. This house is down at the end of Harbor Road near Yield Yacht Yard, so you're probably familiar with this property. It also has kind of a half circle driveway, and they've positioned these lights just on the edge, and it lights it really nicely. So again, these would be right at the entrance. Here's a picture. So it would just light this front part of this entrance of the driveway. On a couple occasions, my client and their friends, not to be named, have backed into the gate, leaving the property. And it's just quite dark over here. As you can see, the main home is over here. And so there's really no ambient light or anything at this side of the property. So adding these 2 lights, we feel would just cast a little bit of a glow for safety reasons and to kind of show people the main entrance to the driveway. So that is essentially my application. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Chris, do you have any questions?
I did. Nice presentation. I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Darren, do you have any questions?
No questions, thanks.
George, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but that was a very nice presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Art, do you have any questions?
No, looks good.
Okay. Any of the other alternates have any questions? Okay, I don't have any questions either. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a comment or ask questions? Okay, having that we have no questions, we'll move on to the next application. I've been asked to recuse myself on the next one, so I'll allow Chris to chair this part of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosina. So the next application is David and Tina Montani, 920 Old Post Road in Fairfield, Connecticut, for property located at 920 Old Post Road in Fairfield. Item A, remove existing shed and basketball court. Item B, construct new single-family house and detached garage. Item C, install new asphalt driveway. Item D, install new fence along front of property. Item E, install new brick stoop and walkways. And item F, install new AC condensing units. Is there anyone here to present this application?
Hi, Chris and the board. My name is Brian St. Pierre. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Montanis for this project and their application. One, thank you very much for giving us the time again. This is our second time in front of you guys.
Excuse, I'm just interrupt for a second. Could somebody's not muted and they're interrupting the my ability to hear? Can everyone make sure they're muted if they're not speaking? Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Brian.
No problem. No problem. Again, just thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our application again. We last presented, I believe it was the January meeting where we presented similar application to the scope, items A through F, whatever it was. And in that meeting, we were asked to address a bunch of issues, not only from the board, but also from the public as to certain issues with the construction of the new home. We took those comments very seriously and really went back to the drawing board, no pun intended, and tried to address all those issues the best we could. And I believe with this new application, we have addressed, I think, almost every issue that came up in that past meeting. So really in this meeting, I want to address the issues and the concerns that we had from the previous meeting, and then we can obviously go over the details of the home as I did in the last presentation, meaning windows and siding and all that good stuff. But what I found was as the biggest issue, and rightfully so, was the position of the garage in the previous application. We had the garage positioned kind of front and center, almost, adjacent to the house, visible from the street. And after we left that meeting and the Montanis and I talked, and, I got a chance to drive around the neighborhood a little bit more, I agree. It definitely would have changed the landscape of that street. There's no other house, you know, nearby that has a garage that's front and present. They're all set behind the house. So we took great measures in trying to reposition the house, redesign the house, and also put that garage to the rear of the building as it would be, you know, with all the other homes in the area. In doing so, that addressed a bunch of other issues that came up in the other meeting. One being the massing of the building. I mean, there was a concern that the mass of frontage from the house was going to be a big impact on the street. And by moving the garage back, it forced us to not only shrink the size of the home to make the house work on the property and within the confines of the setbacks, but it also allowed us to move the house off of the adjacent building to the, if you're looking at the front of the building, to the left, which is the property that's located closest to the street. So in doing so, what it did was push our, sorry, I hit the wrong button here. I'm going to try and share the screen, and so I can show you here. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So in moving the existing location of the first application garage was in this area, basically, like we said, front and center. And by moving the garage to the rear of the property, set back, it also allowed us to move the home off of the left property line, almost by 12 feet or so, 13 feet from what we had previously proposed. So in keeping with that, the building, we lost a little over 20 feet in the width of frontage that would be seen from the road. So previous application, you know, the side, over the left side of the home was all the way up against the property line, this red dotted line. So we not only brought it off the property line, but also the garage was within 5 feet of, I'm sorry, 10 feet of the property on this side, bringing the massing of the building to the right also, I'm sorry, to the left, shrinking the mass and the width of the home. Also, before the driveway was located on the right-hand side, we've now, with the new location of the garage, it has been shifted, which I also remember as a concern that maybe the driveway on this side of the property would be too close to the oncoming traffic making the corner, turning off or turning onto Old Post Road. So I totally understand that too. I you know, in revisiting the property, it was definitely something that I looked at, and it does make more sense that the driveway would be located on the left-hand side, allowing for more visibility for cars backing in and out, not only from the Montani standpoint, but also from Old Post Road, the cars driving down Old Post Road. Touching real quickly while I have the site plan up here, the first item was removing the shed and basketball court. Same as the last application, the shed is located back here at the complete back of the property. That shed will be removed completely. And then also the location of the basketball court. The basketball court will be removed on the Montani's property completely, and turned into grass and obviously, you know, pavement and garage. Sorry. So on the construction of the new home, like I said, we've reduced not only the size of the home. I believe the last application, the home was around 2,500 square feet. I believe we're now at 22, a little over 2,200 square feet. So not in any way an excessive home. I would say one of the smaller ones on the street. The fence that we are proposing is this fence along the front of the property, which will stretch from property line to property line. And it will be set just off the sidewalk, as you can see. And I'll get into the details of the fence and I'll show you the drawings for that. And then just the installation of the new driveway and walkways. We'll have a walkway from the sidewalk to the main entrance. And then obviously the driveway will just continue to the back to the rear entrance where the Montanis will use that entrance. So getting into the drawings, as I mentioned, we shrunk the width of the property. Garage is located. Let me try and zoom out here for you. Garage is located in the back, as you saw on the site plan. And we believe we construct. It's a 2-story home, in keeping with the neighborhood. And as far as the design of the home, we believe we're in keeping with the similar homes that are in the neighborhood. We are kind of following the gable roof line that almost every home on that property or on that street has. And basically just making a nice house that would fit on the property and fit in the neighborhood as a whole. Some of the details of the property, or I'm sorry, of the home will be, and I believe I have the cut sheets in the back side of this. We'll start with the windows. The windows are Pella Architect Series windows. They're a historic recognized window. They're an all wood window with historical sills on them. I know I've used these in many historical projects before. The shutters that we'll be putting on are all wood shutters. And I believe there's a detail of the shutters that we'll be using in the application. All the columns will be custom made, wood columns. Nothing on this house will be vinyl siding or even AZAC. It's wood construction, true construction columns. We have, as far as roofing, we have the GAF Sovereign Slate 3-tab asphalt shingles. The door was a Simpson door, 9-light door, 9-light over 2 panel. The gutters that will be on the home are going to be half-round gutters with leaders. I believe I put the leaders on the floor plan here, so there'll be 1 leader along the side here, and those will be round leaders leading to the half-round gutters. And I believe there's another leader on the back side, which I'm not sure is pertinent to the application. Cornice Detail is your typical historic Cornice Detail with a little return with the crown molding and a little neck molding on the frieze board. All the siding is wood siding, clapboard siding, and corner boards at each corner, which are 6-inch corner boards each corner. Fence detail that we have. So this is a detail hand drawing of the fence. I believe there's also a detail in the application below. I call this the Old Post Road fence. It's the exact fence that just about everybody on Old Post Road has. We took pictures of white fence. It's a wood construction with cedar spigots and cedar posts. And that will stretch along the front of the property. Walkways and driveways, or I'm sorry, walkways and chimneys will be made out of Chicago old used brick. It's a typical brick that was used along this time period in New England, and we believe it matches the historic nature of the street. As I mentioned, here are the wood shutters. They're solid wood panel shutters, and they'll be painted, a color of choice for the Montanis, once we decide on paint color. Royal Sovereign is the 3-tab architectural. It's the slate color, so it's more of a dark gray. I know this might not portray it that great, but it's a dark gray, not a black roof. This is the fence that we'll be mimicking. These are pictures of the fence that's located on Old Post Road currently. And as I mentioned, it's an all wood fence, and we'll be matching these details to a T. There's a more closer look at it. Window details will have the traditional square casing on it with a little neck mold and a crown molding along the top. Traditional to what you'd see on a home of this nature. Doors will be all mahogany. The front door will be, and also on the rear of the home, which is not part of the application, but the rear of the home will also have the true mahogany wood door. It's a 9-light over 2 panel with side lights on either side to match the door. This is just a view of what the mahogany sill will look like on the door itself. It's a detail of it, but it's your historic mahogany sill. Garage doors, again, I put it into the application just in case. I'm not sure you'll see them from the street, but again, we're looking at a wood door, a true wood door, in keeping with the neighborhood and the style. And they're, I guess 16 light over 4 panel, and there's 2 garage doors on that garage itself. This is a detail here. These are the specs on the window to show you the profiles of what the windows are and the mullions that will be inside of them. We do have a couple lighting fixtures on the home, and they are pointed out on the floor plan. This is an example. This is the light we'd be putting underneath the front or above the front door, underneath the gable roof that's there. I'll scroll up real quick to see if I can. So that would be this light fixture right above the front door that would hang from the underside of the portico roof. And then while I'm here, again, I'm not sure you'll see it, but there'll be two lights over each garage door in the backside of the building over here. And those are your traditional gooseneck lights. Gooseneck light, there'll be one over each of the garage doors. They're a copper look material. And again, to shed light on the back for the garage. This is the cut sheet on the aluminum gullers. They're half round aluminums with round leaders, as we talked about. And I believe that's it. But again, I wanted everybody to know that we did take the suggestions from not only the board but also the residents from the last meeting to heart. I mean, a lot of them were very good suggestions, and I believe we got a better house out of it, and I hope that the board agrees with me. And to that, I'll open it up to any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions on the materials, or I know I've breezed over them quickly, but happy to answer anything.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, Brian. Art, do you have any questions?
Thanks, Chris. The only question I had was the proposed roofing shingles. I think that look like they're architectural shingles. Are you? I mean, is the sort of the intent to replicate a stone or slate, or is it supposed to replicate shingles, wood shingles?
Yeah, it's supposed to replicate the shingles. The 3 tabs are more, I guess, in keeping with what a wood shake would look like versus, you know, the architectural that have different lengths and everything. I was able to drive the street, and there were a lot of 3 tab shingles on that road, and that's why we suggested that. And we're, again, if a architectural tab shingle is something the board would rather see, we have no problem, you know, changing that look. It was really to simplify and be more in keeping of what would have happened in a historic home.
Yeah, I bring that up only because I mean I think you put up the cut sheet quickly. It kind of looked like unless I didn't see it correctly, it kind of looked like some kind of running board pattern, which didn't that kind of didn't seem like what I would have expected. You want to put that back up?
Yeah, let me try and find it here. Oh, here it is. Yep. So let me try to see if I can. It's going to be a
Yeah,
little.
they look
blurry.
sort of rectangular and not really like a wood shingle.
Like a wood shingle. Sure. Yeah, and as I mentioned, Art, it was. I've put 3 tab shingles on other historic homes, and you know, it was more of a we've done this in the past. But again, we have no problem doing an architectural shingle, you know, an architectural look on this house if that's something that the board would rather see versus a 3 tab.
Yeah, I'm not trying to steer you one to the other. I'm just putting it to you as a professional architect who obviously has a sense of what's historical. You know, like I'm just saying it typically from, I mean, my house, which was built in 1740, has wood shingles or shakes, you know, the sort of the thinner ones that, you know, 90% of the wood roofs around here have. But I just didn't expect a rectangular shingle to my mind. If I'm looking at, you know, high quality fiberglass shingles, you know, they if they're replicating a wood roof, they're more square than rectangular and not running board. If I mean, I'll leave it up to the other commissioners for their sense of this, but I'm just putting that out there. Just maybe it'll look different on a whole if we scroll down to the other sort of photo below it. I don't know. I just wanted to get your feedback on that, and you know, again, I'll leave it up to the commission. I'm not trying to tell you what shingles to use.
No, absolutely, and I appreciate it, Art. It was a very it was a good comment.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thanks, Art. Darren?
Hi. Could you go back up to the front rendering of the house? I just have some design questions. I just want to understand the rationale behind choices. Again, not meant to steer you necessarily one way or the other. I just want to understand the reasons why designs were picked. So I know you said you went for the gable front look because of other houses on the street, but why specifically did you pick the pedimented gable with the oval window in it?
Yeah, it was more of a, you know, the way the house is positioned. I know it looks wide in this picture, but really the house is deeper front to back than it is wide. And I was trying to get that gable look of, you know, I don't want to call it a row house, but you know, the idea that the roof should go back more. I also it looked very plain, and I guess let me phrase that differently. it looked like we were just sticking a house on the property without that gable. The Montanis and I went back and forth 2 or 3 times actually on whether to present it with the gable or without the gable. And
Maybe I need
it was
to
just more of an
rephrase.
architectural, detail versus any rationale of, structure or style.
Right. No, I'm not questioning the gable front. I'm questioning it looks pedimented. Like it's very distinct gable from the rest of the house.
Gotcha.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's a running cornice, there's a runner board, all
Sure.
of that stuff. So I'm questioning why you went with that because there's no other examples of that to my knowledge on that street. They're more of the gable fronts are more, like later 19th century and don't have that kind of high style distinction that's very much like Greek revival looking. So I'm just trying to understand the thought process. Okay.
Yeah, and again, I know in the drawing it looks, more detailed. I just put up the rendering here. This kind of gives you a better idea of, it's more of a simplistic style versus the very detailed, having the brackets along the underside. I understand exactly where you're coming from. It could stand to be a lot more formal, but in our design, it's really just an architectural detail on the frieze board up here, just to draw a little bit more attention to it. Rather than just sticking a gable up there.
Yeah, I wasn't questioning formality versus, vernacular. It was just it's a roof form that's not present on that street already. So I didn't know if there was a specific draw to that and a specific design rationale behind it. That's all. Same with the oval window there.
Gotcha.
That was just what I was curious about. That's it from me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darren. Alyssa.
Hi, thanks. I do not have any questions at this time.
Okay. George. George, you're muted.
I hear you. I'm sorry.
There you go.
Excuse me. Yeah, it told me. Nice presentation. I noticed you talked about the fence in the front. There was no mention of the gate, although in the picture you've just put up, you've shown one. It's just going to run. The gate is just got to be a running continuation of the fence.
That's correct. Yeah, I apologize for that. As you can see in this rendering, it would just be right where obviously where the walkway is, and it would mimic that example that I gave of the fence that's already on most of the Old Post Road properties.
Yeah, that's my only question. Thank you.
Thanks, George. Jim, you have questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. I had a couple of quick questions for you, Brian. I'm confused by the windows, and I think I was confused the last time you presented this as well. The cut sheet calls for the Pella window exterior. It says it's EnduraClad protective finish, but then it goes on to give us 3 different options, and I don't see that you've indicated which one we're to expect. It looks like, EnduraClad to me means it's a clad window, but then down below it says it can be factory primed pine, which I suspect is what you're planning to do, but you don't indicate that.
Yes. So I think I mentioned this last time in the presentation. Pella does not have wording for the wood window, but if you see on the detail here, I believe it's this one. Me providing this wood window collection was mainly for you to see the profiles that are on the actual window itself, but the window itself will be the all wood inside and out Pella Architect Series window. and again, I apologize. I even called my rep at Pella, and they said, you know, there's no spec or no kind of detail other than what's shown here, which is the cut section of that wood window, but it will be wood.
Well, if you look at since you're showing us the section, if you look at that, I mean, to me, it looks like it's clad. Like if you go to the fixed section, and you look at the
Yeah,
exterior,
it does look like there's a piece there.
all of those pieces of wood are clad. So this is not a wood window. It's a wood clad window. And I guess it's clad with aluminum or something. So I'm just curious as to why you would submit this detail if you're proposing a wood window.
Yeah, and again, this came from Pella themselves when I asked them for the wood window, and I see now that, I mean, I was looking at the sash itself, and it didn't look like it had the clad on it.
It does. I mean, to me, it does look like it has it on it. It's got a dark line. If you look at the fixed section or the vented section, both of them, the line on the outside, inside of the screen looks to be clad.
Yeah, I see that now, Chris. Yeah, and again, that's my fault. I'm happy to try and find the cut section. I mean, I know I've used this Pella Architect Series wood window in numerous historic projects in Fairfield.
Okay.
But yes, if it's something that you'd like me to submit in conjunction with this application, I'm happy to see what Pella can provide me for the wood only window. But
okay,
in terms of what we're putting in, there's no doubt it will be an all wood window.
Okay, and then similar question: the cut sheet that you submitted for the exterior window head casing, I mean, to me that looks like a PVC piece of material. It doesn't look like it's wood.
Yeah, it was more to show you what the crown would look like, and what the head detail would look like. It's an all wood, as I believe I specified on the elevations. It's an all wood casing with the mahogany wood historic sill and the wood crown along the top.
So on the top, you've got that crown. Is there gonna be a piece of flashing on top of that?
Yep, there'll be a piece of copper flashing along the top, bent over the edge.
Okay. Okay. Those were my only questions. Are there any other commissioners that have any additional questions of the presenter? Okay. We did receive a number of letters from folks, and I want to go ahead and read those into the record before we ask for comments from the public. The first letter came from, and excuse my mispronunciation of some of these names, I may not get them right, but it came from Johan Andreasen, and they write, "Dear Historic District Commission members and Chairman Kleiber, I'm a Historic District area resident at 981 Old Post and am writing in strong opposition to the proposed construction of a new home on the small, non-conforming lot at 980 Old Post Road. Based on the proposal, the size of the home is too large and will be too close to the street and neighboring properties and would cause irreversible negative impact on the appearance on the surrounding district. This is not the beach area, and there is no reason to allow such exploitation of one of the most precious historic areas in Fairfield and even the country. Quite frankly, if this was to be approved by the HDC, the very existence and justification of the HDC would come into immediate question. While new construction shouldn't always be declined, this type of attempted blatant disregard for what the historic area is and should be per the HDC guidelines, which is what has kept this area such a beautiful and wonderful part of history for decades, is frightening. The mass and setbacks of the main house would significantly damage the overall appearance of the historic district and set a bad precedence for the future. Specifically, the building of this large of a new house on such a small plot of land would be unprecedented in the historic district and would set a bad precedent for other flippers and predatory developers that may seek to subdivide existing larger lots and build new houses. Beach area type construction with house after house closely abutting each other, squeezed in to maximize square footage and developer profit on small and non-conforming lots has no place in the historic district. The HDC's mission is as much about preserving what is here as about to preserve what is not here. As such, I call on the commission to deny the application for a certificate of appropriateness in order to protect and preserve the historic district against the excessive development contemplated at 920 Old Post Road, which is the core function of the commission. In addition to my written testimony, I would also welcome the opportunity to speak at today's hearing. Best regards, Johan Andreasen, 981 Old Post Road. I'm going to go ahead and read all of the letters, and then I will give you the opportunity to comment on them. This next one is, Dear Mr. Kleiber, we are writing to you in opposition of the proposed construction of a new home and double garage on the subdivided lot at Old 20 Old Post Road, Fairfield. In a bid to push development to the limits of zoning regulations, this application shows deference to the context of the site itself. We were disappointed to learn that after denial of their prior submission, the applicants did not seize the opportunity in reconfiguring their design to accommodate the most material concern raised by neighboring households, namely the front setback. Setback does not conform with HDC guidelines. The proposed construction is directly adjacent to the Rowland Homestead, 952 Old Post Road, one of the 6 properties that survived the burning of Fairfield in 1779, and the only one not located on Beach Road. This envisaged new construction, I think it's supposed to be envisioned, new construction would eliminate the vista of the original main entrance of that historic property. The proposed 30-foot front setback for the new construction is non-conforming to customary setbacks along the short end of Old Post Road of 46 to 65 feet. The 2 exceptions to this rule are both grandfathered in pre-Revolutionary War edifices, the original side facades of which front was now Old Post Road. The original main entrances faced the beach. The Rowland Homestead, 952 Old Post Road, constructed in 1759. The Thorpe House, 1005 Old Post Road, originally constructed in 1756, rebuilt after the burning of Fairfield. HDC guidelines state, in quotes, new construction shall be designed so that the views from public ways of existing buildings and structures is undiminished to the extent possible. For example, a new construction will often need to be of lower height and with less massing and bulk than existing buildings and structures. so that the view of these existing structures from public ways is protected. Similarly, street setbacks and lot placement should not necessarily mirror existing buildings and structures, but should be designed to protect the historic views of such existing buildings and structures. Finally, to the extent possible, design of new buildings and structures should complement the historic character of the property in question. For example, if a building lot is created where a garden has historically existed, then a building with elements of a garden cottage retaining as much as possible of the historic grounds would be more appropriate than a formal house with a large footprint, unquote. So that was taken from the Fairfield Handbook, Historic District Commission Handbook. They go on to write, exemptions to the HDC streetscape guidelines have not been granted in other similar cases. Example 965 Old Post Road. To ensure equity, to avoid precedent setting and unintended future consequences, we would urge you to deny this application. Yours sincerely, and it is signed by the following folks. Richard Cunningham from 952 Old Post Road, David Haddad from 1038 Old Post Road, Jennifer Andresen, 981 Old Post Road, Johan Andresen, 981 Old Post Road, Judith Fox, 1005 Old Post Road, Ann Cadis, 996 Old Post Road, Peter Cadis, 996 Old Post Road, Carrie Gillespie Hind, 965 Old Post Road, Brian Quinn, 970 Old Post Road, Michelle Quinn, 970 Old Post Road, Michael Dewar, 47 West Morgan Avenue, and David Haddad, 72 West Morgan Avenue. And it was written by Richard Cunningham of 952 Old Post Road. The next letter is written by Karen Oliveri from 880 Old Post Road. Is written to the Fairfield Historic District Commission, and it's regarding the application for 920 Old Post Road. To whom it may concern, this letter is respectfully submitted to articulate a concern regarding plans and specifications prepared for the application for a certificate of appropriateness dated May 18th for 920 Old Post Road, Fairfield. 1. Improvement location survey drawing. This drawing indicates a dotted line for the basketball court to be removed. The dotted line extends beyond the property line encroaching on my property. This is not acceptable. Please revise the drawings to indicate the following. A, identify the portion of the basketball court to remain, namely the portion on my property. B, identify means and methods to be utilized to maintain the integrity of the existing basketball court, subsurface and plain surface that will remain on my property. And C, provide details, if any, regarding any proposed treatment, e.g. plantings or fence along the property line. Very truly yours, Karen C. Oliveri. There was a letter that was received today that I have on my phone that I'm going to read to you. Dear Mr. Kleiber, I am writing in opposition to the proposed construction of a new home and garage on the lot at 920 Old Post Road, Fairfield, Connecticut. This piece of property size and shape is not appropriate for building in the HDC. It is a 2,500 plus square foot single family home on a tiny parcel of land with a side extension, a garage, and a front setback that disrupts the historic streetscape of Old Post Road. This home and garage are neither designed in any architectural design of the historic district nor architecture mentioned in the HDC handbook. The HDC handbook is very clear as to what is and is not historically appropriate. Precedence has already been set for setbacks of new build on Old Post Road, 965 Old Post Road, and 965 Old Post Road fits with the setbacks on the street. The setback for 965 Old Post Road is 55 feet. Therefore, the front setback for this proposed home should follow the average setback on this block of Old Post Road. Historic District residents and HDC should not be unduly influenced to approve the building of this home because the owners purchased the property prior to obtaining HDC's approval for the building and design of the proposed home. It is the owner's responsibility to follow the HDC's handbook regarding the historical appropriateness of building a home on this site. The homeowners in the historic district, homeowners take great pride in owning a piece of Fairfield's history. When each owner in the historic district decided to purchase a home here, we also agreed to follow HDC rules and take on the additional cost of preserving our historic homes to preserve history. If the HDC approves the applicant's proposed home, the HDC will set precedents. Owners of other historic district properties in the town center Hill can then subdivide and build new homes on smaller parcels of land, which will forever change Fairfield's historic districts. The proposal for this home is not in the spirit of preserving Fairfield's historic districts. I urge HDC not approve the build of a new home that goes against everything in the Historic District Commission and HDC handbook have been created to protect. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment on this application. Best regards, Jennifer Andreessen, 981 Old Post Road. And then I did also receive a letter in support of this application. This is from Christopher Wilson, and he writes to Historic District Commission. I'm writing to express my strong support for the proposed Montani residence on the Old Post Road. I live directly across the street at 931 Old Post Road. My front door would look out onto the Montani's new home, so there are probably only two homes in the neighborhood, both adjacent, which have a more direct impact than mine. I have reviewed their redesigned proposal and believe it to be perfectly reasonable, and I have lived through prior such neighborhood objections in the town of Monroe and seen how opposing a reasonable proposal come back to bite you far worse, i.e., developments that work through the state affordable housing guidelines to get around local zoning. My strong advice to neighbors, guided by my experienced history, is to accept a reasonable proposal, then risk what could come next. And it's signed Chris and Lorraine Wilson, 931 Old Post Road in Fairfield. Those are the, oh, I'm sorry. There's one more, apologies. This is from the Old Post Road Association. And it's addressed to Adam Kleiber, Chairman. And it reads, Commissioners, the Old Post Road Area Association is a nonprofit local community organization that seeks to preserve and enhance the historic character of the neighborhood and to promote a sense of community for the residents on and around the Old Post Road. Many of the members of the OPRAA have asked the OPRAA board to write the commission regarding the application for 920 Old Post Road and the appropriateness of the application for the Old Post Road Historic District. I want to preface my comments below with the fact that the Old Post Road, the OPRAA has no jurisdiction in deciding the appropriateness or inappropriateness of this application. We, as an organization, want to help facilitate our members and neighbors in maintaining the historic nature of our Old Post Road District. We write to implore the Commission to take special consideration to the guidelines from the Fairfield Historic District Handbook regarding new buildings. Quote, new buildings constructed on a subdivided lot or on a lot that has not had buildings or structures since the creation of the historic district shall be designed to retain as much as possible of the visual historic streetscape. Such new construction shall be designed so that the views from public ways of existing buildings and structures is undiminished to the extent possible. For example, a new construction will often need to be of lower height and with less massing and bulk than existing buildings and structures, so that the view of these existing structures from public ways is protected. Similarly, street setbacks and lot placement should not necessarily mirror existing buildings and structures, but should be designed to protect the historic views of such existing buildings and structures, unquote. Again, that was from the HDC handbook. This application for a new building will impact the streetscape on the Old Post Road, particularly on the stretch that runs north to south from the center of town. Your task is to determine if this application will negatively impact the streetscape and become a quote-unquote sore thumb, or will blend harmoniously into the streetscape and not deter from the existing historic homes on the street and in the district. These decisions will also set a precedent for future changes in the district. The pre-Revolutionary War home at 952 Old Post Road, Andrew Rowland House, 1768, should not be overshadowed by a new structure, and care should be taken to make sure lines of sight of 952 Old Post Road are protected from all directions of the public view. As I discussed with the Old Post Road Association Board, the applicant and neighbors on the Old Post Road, anyone building a house in a historic district on a new subdivided lot must take many things into consideration as outlined in the HDC handbook. I also encourage the applicant and neighbors to consider a land swap from the adjacent neighbor or obtain a variance to allow the applicant to increase his front setback and build his home more in keeping with the other homes front setback on that section of the Old Post Road. This would minimize any potential adverse effect on the streetscape and avoid diminishing any views of the Andrew Rowland House at 952 Old Post Road. We strongly request you consider the effects this home will have on the streetscape if sited on the proposed location and determine whether it diminishes the visual importance and location of the home at 952 Old Post Road. We also ask you to review the size, massing, and architectural details of the proposed home to ensure it is in keeping with the historic district. We support your commission in preserving the character of the Old Post Road Historic District. Thank you. And this is on behalf of the Old Post Road Association Board, and it's signed by Dr. Henry Backey, and he's the president of that association. I did not receive any other letters, either opposed, in support of, or otherwise needing to comment on the application. I think at this point, what I'd like to do is have the applicant respond to the letters that have just been read out loud prior to me taking questions from anyone in the would like to speak.
Chair, Chris Russo with Russo and Rizzio LLC, offices at 10 Sasco Hill Road in Fairfield. I represent the applicant, and before Mr. St. Pierre gets back on to respond to some of the design questions, I just wanted to respond to a couple common threads in the letters that were just read. The first is with regards, and this was mostly spoken to in Mr. Andreessen's letter, regarding the zoning of the lot and the nonconformity of the lot. I know this board understands this, but that is not what is before this board. If Mr. Andreessen has a question or is questioning the legality of the lot, as a building lot, he should go speak to the zoning department. For his edification, it is a conforming lot. It's in the Residence A zone. The Residence A zone requires 9,375 square feet of lot area. This lot has that. It's 9,390. Requires a 75-foot square. This lot has it, and it requires a minimum lot frontage of 75 feet, and this has 83 feet. So it is a conforming lot. It is also conforming as a setback. Oddly, people are asking for it to become not conforming by trying to push it back farther. There is a 30-foot setback in the zone, and that is what the proposal is, for it to be set back. I will, if I can share here, just go to the site plan. This is the front setback that's required in this zone, and that's where the house is. There's also a rear setback in this zone, and this house goes back to that rear setback. It cannot go back farther. The zoning regulations don't allow it. So Mr. St. Pierre has designed this building to be conforming, and so it's a conforming building on a conforming lot. Its mass is not excessive for the zone. There's 20% building coverage allowed in the zone. This is only 17.7. So it doesn't even max out on the building coverage. It also doesn't even get close on the floor area of maxing out. It's 28% and there's 40% allowed. And I don't mean to go on long about the zoning, but the claims that this is non-conforming or it's not a legal lot are inaccurate. The other point that is brought up is with regard to the handbook and what is stated in the handbook. And one, I'll say, this is a new construction in an area where there's no recent history of buildings or structures of historic nature. In fact, it has a basketball court on a portion of it. And so we're removing a basketball court, which is not historic, obviously, and we're putting in a dwelling that is designed to match the historic character of the neighborhood. And the key point in this section of the handbook is that any new construction does not block an existing building. And there is no building behind where this dwelling is going. There is another lot, and it's actually the swimming pool of that lot that's behind there, but it is not blocking a building. And if you've been by the site, which I'm sure you all have, right now, there is a very large arborvitae screen, evergreen screen there in the front of the property that completely blocks the view into the property and the southern side of the home at 952 Old Post Road, which some of the neighbors cited. So if anything, because this application proposes removing that, it's going to open up the viewscape of the house that's at 952 Old Post Road, which is extremely close to the road. It's pre-existing non-conforming, obviously, but it is about 15 to 18 feet off of Old Post Road, and we're all the way back at 30 feet. So the portion of the regulations in the handbook that they're referring to just doesn't apply in this case, because we are not blocking any existing building and in fact improving the situation. And really very few of these comments, I can't remember one that actually talked about the design of the house or what it's mostly about what the zoning is, and then basically trying to find a way to not get the house built. But it is a valid building lot that is allowed to have a single family dwelling constructed. I think Mr. St. Pierre and my client have done a great job in responding to the comments of this commission in making revisions, significant revisions, to make sure that this does fit in the character of the neighborhood. But I'll turn it over to back to Mr. St. Pierre, but I just wanted to address those two specific comments.
Thank you, Mr. Russo.
Board. Chris touched on one of the things that I was gonna address was obviously the line of sight, and he did it perfectly. We are actually improving the line of sight to the historic home to the north of this property by taking out those arborvitaes. And I will just, let me share one thing for you here. This is going back to the site plan. I know it's not on there currently, but the historic house, the approximate location is right where the wording for proposed driveway is. That is the approximate location of the front of I think it's 952. That is the approximate location. As you can see from the surrounding property, where the garage is to the south of the lot. If you draw, it's not drawn on here, but if you draw your straight line, direct, line of sight from the front of that the front of, I think it was 980 Old Post Road, where the arrow is here, and you take a sight line down to the front of the proposed driveway, or wording proposed driveway, you'll see that our house sets back from that setback line, not taking any views away from the historic home on the south or on the north side. So I just wanted to follow up on Chris's there. I'm going to address the question for Mr. Oliveri. I think he sent that, or Mrs. Oliveri. I think they sent that prior to myself and Mr. Oliveri talking on the phone, and we addressed exactly what was in that letter. It was, I guess, a typo from the surveyor that he had taken the portion of the basketball court that was on their property and said it was to be removed. For clarification, we are saw cutting, for all intents and purposes, right along our property line. We'll call it one inch over our property line for good measures, and removing the basketball court that's only on the 920 Old Post Road property. Whatever the Oliveris decide to do with their basketball court is for them to decide, but we are not removing any portion that's on their property. And again, measures they had talked about, there will be a saw cut, clean saw cut right along the property line, and we'll go from there. But I think, like Chris said, most of those letters were all in the same nature, addressing the same issue, and I think we addressed all of them.
Actually, I don't think one of them perhaps you didn't address, or maybe I didn't hear it. You just mentioned the Oliveris, and one of the letters suggested perhaps looking into a land swap with that neighbor so that you could reconfigure the lot a bit and allow for, which seems to be the biggest concern of the neighbors, is to allow for the proposed dwelling to be moved back further into that lot.
I mean, Chairman, that's not even on the table. I mean, that's somebody else's land. This is our land. This is what we have to work with.
Your presentation said that you addressed all of the questions, and I was just pointing out that there was a question that I didn't hear addressed. So
Yeah, no, this is the lot. This is the lot that my client owns, and it's again a valid building lot. It conforms. What we're proposing conforms. So we're presenting on the land that we actually own.
Okay, thank you. Are there any folks that are in attendance that would like to speak in favor of this application that haven't already spoken or have been heard? Okay, I'm hearing none. Anyone in favor of this application that would like to speak? Okay, I hear no one. Is there anyone in opposition to this application that would like to speak?
I would if I could, if you can hear me. I'm Richard Cunningham. I'm the abutting neighbour. There's a quorum of opposition from surrounding neighbours. You'll notice from the addresses and the letters that you've received that almost all of the surrounding households are raising concerns around this development. We're reasonable people. The opposition isn't to development per se. It's to the inappropriate nature of this specific proposal, its streetscape impact, and the requirement to change a precedent on front setbacks, which applies across Old Post Road. It is more than possible to build a modest home on the lot in question, for example, a Cape Cod, which would comply both with town zoning requirements and historic district requirements, and also enable the developers to reap a profit on their investment. If you look at, for example, at selling prices on 1,200 square feet new builds on Oldfield Road, our concern is larger than this project itself. A precedent has already been set for new construction on the short leg of Old Post Road. I think the attorney who spoke earlier was kind of incorrect in mentioning that there hadn't been new construction on this end of Old Post Road. There has. And in that case, the historic district determined a front setback of 55 feet. Were a 30-foot setback to be allowed in this case, we're concerned that there'd be unintended consequences from changing the current precedent. Will future developers in Old Post Road now all expect a 30-foot setback? Would this encourage more opportunistic and predatory development within the historic district by increasing the potential profit for developers? If a homeowner who currently has a 65-foot setback on Old Post Road, and there are many, now wants to add a 35-foot front extension onto their property, is that something the historic district will now entertain as a result of altering this precedent? And then what if other neighbours were to follow suit? And I think you can kind of see here, you're being asked to change a precedent that applies across the historic district and has already been set, and it's already been established, and it has already been through this committee. I would ask you to think careful about the potential consequences at a neighbourhood level before making that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this application?
Yeah, Johan Andreasen, 981 Old Post Road. Yeah, I want to just obviously sent the letter, and I agree with everything that Richard just said. In terms of my comment on the non-conforming lot, I'm not a lawyer. That was not a legal language I use. I don't use legal language. The lot is too small for this big of a house in the historic district. There's nothing on this lot today. This committee is not about zoning. This is the historic district committee who is here to address, what is appropriate in this neighborhood, where all of you've heard through the letters. This basically the entire street and the district is against this, and I think the valid concerns. So just to clarify that, I don't think it has anything to do with zoning. Quite frankly, it has to do with that the standard for a new building per the handbook is very high. It should be sensitive. It should have a minimal impact on the district. None of those has been addressed. The handbook, I mean, it's written there. It's already been said. From a former garden should be a garden cottage, not a formal home. A formal home would be basically inappropriate. And so it needs to be scaled back, as Richard said, to something smaller. The fact that with St. Pierre's comment about moving the arborvitae is improving the line of sight. That, as the commission knows, screenings by plants has no impact on view or line of sight in according to the handbook. So that's wrong. I'm also really concerned about the design of the house. That's maybe more my preference. But I heard the comment of wanted to make this look like a row house. Well, we don't want this. This is not the place for row houses. I fear that it would look too plain if instead of this triangular thing on the front was a plain gable roof. But the rest of the house, which is also, like, the handbook is clear, like if there is a roof style that all is common in the neighborhood, that should be followed, and it's not followed. It's a complete new roof style. I don't understand. There's been no sensitivities to anything in the proposal. You hire a lawyer to talk about zoning. It just doesn't cut it. I think the other thing on the design, on the front, the small square windows, the bathroom windows, it's what makes this look like a new build. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think the attic window is appropriate. I don't think the plain painted shutters are appropriate. Like, all the shutters on this part of the street are louvered shutters. There's no central chimney on this house planned. If you look at 965, my neighbor who is a new build, who's also opposing this, they put a central chimney. I don't know if it's real or not, or if it's fake, but there is a central brick chimney. I don't know why that's not on this house, quite frankly. It's a significant historic feature that I think all of the houses on this block have. Maybe there's an exception, but again, we should not make exception for new build. There's nothing in this house today. I don't see any reason for anything to be built unless it's something that makes sense for the historic district. The fact that they can pass zoning and meet minimum setbacks, it means nothing. It's there's nothing about that in the handbook, quite frankly. And this is the historic district. The zoning has already approved it. It's not that the issue. So don't argue about that. White aluminum colors. I mean, again, I think copper gutters would make more sense, but these are my preferences, my comments. I don't even know if the fence is a good idea on this. With a 30-foot setback, we all have very large yards in front of our house, except the few like Rich's, who's very close to the street, but he has no fence. If you put a fence and that's short, narrow setback to the street, I think you risk having a very small front yard, and you just amplify. This is a new build. Looks really weird where we have all these big, beautiful properties, historic properties with big front yards that makes the street. I think for a lot of people, just walking down the street is one of the best part of downtown Fairfield. And I would hate to see, this type of development go up without further consideration and find as something that is smaller. I'm not saying nothing can be built in this thing, but the size of this is still way too big. It's too new. It's too modern. There is absolutely no reason in my mind to approve it, and I think we all think the same. So I'll end with that, and thank you for the opportunity to speak and address the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Andresen. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this application?
Can you hear me? This is Ann Cadis.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi. I don't want to take up too much time. I really just want to echo what Richard and Johan just said. I especially appreciate Johan's comments regarding the design elements of the windows and the setbacks, and about how this is not about zoning. It is about the historic district. And I'll just say, when we bought this house, there were several, I live at 996. When we bought this house, there were several people that wanted to purchase the home. But the owners were very specific in allowing us to purchase it because we had such a love of the historic district and promised to carry on their care and regard for the historic district. And I just feel like, you know, I think we're the sixth owners of this home, and it was built in 1854. And I just feel like I wouldn't be doing it justice if I didn't say, what we're saying here. It's not that nothing can be built there. It's that what has been proposed isn't appropriate for the district. And according to the handbook that's been, I think that was written in the 60s. I mean, it's very important to us is what we're saying. And no one's trying to say, oh, you can't do anything there, but it needs to be appropriate and historically accurate. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Hearing none, one more chance. Is anyone else wanting to speak on this application in opposition to it? Is there anyone that is going to speak for this application? Okay, and then I will allow the applicant to come back on and address anything that has been said since the letters were read. If anyone would like to add any comments.
Chair, I'll be quick because I think I made the point the previous time, but Mr. Cunningham made a comment to the effect of that there's a way to be compliant with the zoning regulations and also this view that there's a historic setback of 40 feet, even though his property is 15. But that if that were the case, to be both compliant with zoning and historic in this 40-foot setback that he's discussing, there would be 5 feet from the front setback of the building to the back setback in order to be compliant with both of those that they would have to build in, which is clearly unreasonable. And there's a couple sections, and I just want to restate these sections of the handbook just to be clear on it. There's the comment regarding the garden. It says, for example, if a building lot is created where a garden has historically existed, then a building with elements of a garden cottage retaining as much of the possible historic grounds would be more important. That one, it's saying take elements, and two, where this house is going is where a basketball court is. So I don't know what elements they want us to take from the basketball court, but it's not even the location of a garden. We're proposing a house in conformity with the historic neighborhood, but they keep referring to that example. And then the other thing about the location, throughout the handbook, it uses the phrase rhythms in location and trying to match the rhythms in location. And it repeats that type of requirement. One of the only places it is different in the entire handbook is in this situation where there's been a lot that's subdivided, because the handbook recognized that a subdivided lot might be different in design or shape than a lot that was in existence from way back in the 17 and 1800s. So recognizing that, the actual language of the handbook says, the established rhythms in location, massing, height, and bulk of buildings and structures along the street may not be appropriate for replication in the case of new construction on land without any relevant history of buildings and structures. This is a piece of land without any relevant history of buildings or structures. And using the specific language in the handbook, it says that established rhythms in location may not be appropriate. And that's the situation where we have here. It is a new lot. It was not created in the 17 and 1800s. It is compliant with the zoning regulations. It is a valid building lot. And due to that, this is how we have to locate this building to be compliant, which again is not that big of a dwelling. It is way undersized in floor area and building coverage for the zone. So for those reasons, we feel we fulfill the intent of the handbook in your regulations. I don't know if Mr. St. Pierre wants to add anything, but I just wanted to specifically address that.
Thank you for those comments.
Yeah, Chris, I'll thank you for jumping in there. I mean, in terms of the design of the house, I think we addressed the roof pitch before, and in terms of the small windows, I believe it fits the style and nature of the house. If I'm wrong, but I will stand by the small windows and think that they're appropriate for the home.
Okay, great. Any other comments from the applicant? And
No, Chris,
hearing
all
none,
set. Thank you very much.
hearing none, we will close this hearing, and I will turn the duties back over to Rosina, the chairperson.
Thank you, Chris.
Excuse me, will the
We'll-
chair entertain a request to continue a matter?
What was that again?
Will the chair entertain a request to continue a matter? This is Joel Green. I represent the Sasquatch Association with respect to the last item on your agenda, which is 14 Willow Street. The applicant is Carrie Wilson. I understand. We're just. I'm merely asking you to continue the matter. I have spoken with Mrs. Wilson, and we have agreed that the matter should be carried on your agenda forward from this evening, if the commission is willing to entertain that.
You're asking to remove the application from consideration tonight and have it come before us at another time. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I believe that Mrs. Wilson is on, and we had a dialogue this afternoon, and we've provided her with a letter from the Sasquatch Association, and it would benefit us to be able to speak, and also Mrs. Wilson may choose to retain counsel on this matter. So with that, we join in asking that the matter be marked off the agenda today and be considered either in August or September, and we will be in touch if that's permissible to the commission.
Okay. Chris, do you have anything?
My only comment to that was I believe there's a time constraint on this application because I think there is a violation involved with this application. And I'm not Adam, I can't speak for Adam, so I can't say what happens with that.
Well, I'm sure that the applicant would be willing to waive any time limit for action on it, and I presume that it's up to the commission on that as well.
So I would say, Rosina, just make the call on that.
Rosina, the question is,
go ahead and remove it from this meeting.
Yeah, maybe Art could chime in quickly.
Well, not really. I mean, is Attorney Green asking this to be continued on behalf of the applicant? Or is this, I mean, I trust his word as an officer of the court, but I'd like to hear what the applicant intends to do since they're on the docket.
Is it possible to continue with items 4 and 5, and when we get to this, we can discuss that one?
The applicant is trying to speak, I think, but she's muted. Carrie Wilson, you're muted. You're still muted. I don't know if the host can. Oh, there
If
you
she
are.
can't speak, I
Can you
think
hear me
Rosina,
now?
you should
I'm listening on my.
proceed with the other items.
Carrie, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, I have my headphones on. I'm trying to use that audio, but I'll use my computer audio. So I just was informed by Mr. Green right before the meeting that the Sasquatch had sent in a letter, and I wanted the opportunity to also speak to legal counsel myself. So I was trying to see if we could defer this discussion until I've had an opportunity to do that. And so then the only reason we're asking right now is to save ourselves the next hour of listening, you know, if we're going to be able to be deferred.
I will say yes, especially because if the letter was sent in today, I did not receive those letters that were sent in today, so makes total sense.
Yes, exactly. It was just sent in, I think, you know, an hour ago. He emailed it to me. So I wanted to have an opportunity to kind of review that myself.
Was that letter, Carrie, just for clarification, was that letter sent to the Historic District Commission and you were copied on it?
No, I think it was sent to the Historic Commission. I was sent it individually by Mr. Green. So, and it was in opposition of our application. So I just wanted, and he wanted, you know, we both kind of discussed that in order for fairness that I would like an opportunity to also kind of review it and have a little time to think about, you know, just to make sure that we all know that it's a fair application.
Okay, understood. Yeah, I mean, to Rosina's point, if that letter was sent to us and we haven't received it yet, then it makes sense for this to be continued.
Yep. Okay.
So let's go ahead and remove item 6.
In response to Chris, Vice Chair, Acting Chair Shea, he mentioned some kind of time constraint. Are you aware of any constraints or limitations that if we continue this, you'd be prejudiced? I just heard one thing about that. I just want to make sure you're aware.
Interject here for a moment. There is something in the general statutes that gives the commission a certain amount of time to react and respond to COA applications. If it's potentially going to run over that period of time, I can't remember if it's 30 days or 60 days off the top of my head. Maybe Attorney Green knows off the top of his. But if we're going to run over that time period, I think it would be better to withdraw the application and resubmit when you're ready. But maybe I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to give legal counsel, but there are stipulations on our reaction time to applications that have been submitted based on general statutes.
What we would do is just deny the application without prejudice, and then it can be resubmitted or modified and submitted.
Okay. That makes sense. This was in response to a violation, so I'm not sure if there's a time restraint with the responding to a violation either. But
let's go ahead, get back to the agenda, do number 4, do number 5, and let's discuss number 6 when we get to that point. Is that okay? Thank you. So let's move on to number 4. Eric and Heather Mowland, 1386 Hillside Road, Fairfield, Connecticut, 06824 for a property located at 1386 Hillside Road, Fairfield. Item A, new one-story pool house. Is there anyone here to present the application?
Hi, my name is John Wazalewski. I'm an architect with David Scott Parker Architects. Thank you, Rosina. I am here representing our clients, Eric and Heather Mullen, who purchased 1386 Hillside Road 2 years ago. I'm going to go ahead and share screen and present the project.
I am so.
Can everyone see my screen? Yes? Terrific. Okay. So the property in question is at 1386 Hillside Road. You can see the existing house in the image on your right. The house was built in 1834. I had notes on all this stuff. That's okay. The house was built in 1834. It was expanded later in the 19th century. In the 1920s, Cameron Clark built the portico that faces Hillside Road that many of you have seen. His wife, Agnes Selkirk Clark, who was an important landscape architect in her own right, created the formal gardens here. The pool was added later. In the early 1990s, our office, under the design of David Scott Parker, designed this portico facing the formal gardens. Prior to the addition of this portico, this side of the house had a rather informal facade. So this was a peculiar relationship. We had very formal gardens, but no formal access on the house itself. The portico here and its colonial revival detailing picks up detailing from the Cameron Clark portico done earlier that century. But it's all to say that the house is has been worked on by important architects and designers, and these formal gardens are a critical feature of that property. Here you can see the site plan of the residence. This is the house. This is the portico here that we're looking at here. The formal gardens on axis here, and the pool. And the proposed pool house is intended to be on axis with the gardens and pool at this location. I'm just going to take you through some quick views of the property so you can get a better sense on the ground of what one might see. This is the area along the edge of the property. We're standing, you can see we're standing here. The pool house would be here. You can see the house back in the distance. This edge along here is very heavily planted. This is a little bit further forward, and I'm sorry, a little bit further forward, looking back toward the house. In this view, the pool house would be right about here on this image. And again, standing further back, closer to the corner on Hillside, now I'm much further down the hill. You can see just the edge of the house right here, and in this view, the pool house would be right behind these plantings here, and in certain times of the year, it might eclipse the corner of the house. This is from Old Academy, an existing fieldstone wall with a garden gate that looks up the side of the property. That would be here. And then the driveway to the adjacent property, which is also owned by Eric and Heather Molland. And you can see the other side of the main house over here. That portico there would be this portico here. Or not portico, I'm sorry, gable end. Here in gable end here. Okay. This image is interesting. This is actually a tennis pavilion that was on the property, designed by Cameron Clark. It's been demolished some time ago, but it was a garden structure that had this kind of wonderful, playful pagoda-shaped roof on it. This is the proposed pool house, again on axis with the gardens, set back slightly from the edge of the pool. And you can see it sort of picks up this playful pagoda-like roof shape that again had been in that old tennis pavilion. The plan of the pool house, you can see right here, this is the that gray right here, that's the edge of the existing pool coping, and just 4 feet away of grass, a very narrow patio of 9 feet. The pool house itself is 27 foot 6.5 inches by 17 inches deep. It includes some bathing facilities, a 16 by 16 foot sitting room, and then a small pantry area. The entire, let's get rid of that. The entire structure is to be painted wood. The detailings will pick up the detailings from the main house and repeat some of its colonial revival styling. It has a brick foundation with brick plinths under the pilasters, painted wood pilasters with classical proportions, and then wood brackets, wood cornice, half round copper gutters, round copper down leaders, and a cedar shingle roof as shown. The doors are wood, thermal pane with simulated divided lights painted. On this side of the building, we're proposing a bifold lift and slide, or it's actually a trifold lift and slide by a company named Norwood. Does a very nice quality product, and they can emulate narrower styles and rails that are similar to what one might have seen in an older building. And go. This is the back side, so this is the downhill side. Now there's quite a bit of a drop off, so you'll see a lot more of the brick foundation on this side. Again, you'll see brick plinths under the pilasters. On this side, there's a large sort of bay kind of case. It's not really a bay. It's a flat double casement with a single to either side. And again, banked by pilasters with or flanked by pilasters with wood panels below. And then on either side, this would be toward the inside face of the property is a triple window over by the pantry. On the side that faces the street, there's two single casement windows. A couple other things I neglected to mention. There are lights. There were showing sconces here and here. Those have yet to be selected. We understand that we will need to come back and present those to the commission before the project is finished. There's a note on the site plan about pool fencing. We know that we will need to come back when the details of that have also been finalized. Okay. And so here's a view of the building from the downhill side. So again, you can see the drop off to the grade. Really, just a note about pool fencing, it's intended, what they discussed doing was deer fencing that would then be planted out. But again, I think we're gonna finalize the details of those a little further down the road. But you can see here the double window with side casements to either to the left and right with wood panels below, flanked by wood pilasters, brick plinths below, full brick veneer foundation, copper down leaders, copper gutters, the pagoda roof, all in wood shingles, and all of the wood trim and brackets all painted. And then another view of the front. And I think that's it. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, John. Art, do you have any questions?
None for me, thank you.
Okay. Darren, do you have any questions?
Hi, John. Thanks for that presentation. It was really, really succinct. I just have one quick question. So you showed the tennis pavilion. Is this situated where that was?
No, that's not the exact same location. We don't know exactly where the tennis pavilion was on the property. But we do know that it was there and that it was designed by Cameron Clark.
Okay, cool. That was my only question. Thank you.
It would be fun. I wish it was. It would be a great, much better story, right? If it was in the same spot.
Yeah, well, aerial photos will show you, but that would be cool to find out.
Chris, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. John, as far as the siting on the piece of property for this pool house, I mean, I guess it's kind of obvious to me that it needs to be adjacent to the existing pool, but did you consider any other locations for it on the on another side of the pool, or maybe somewhere that's maybe a little bit less prominent?
Yeah. Um, we did. I mean, I think really with the existing pool design and the existing garden design, it really feels like it kind of feels like that's sort of the place it would go. I think as you started to look at doing a pool over here, it has a very peculiar formal relationship to this. And even a bit of a, you know, an odd relationship to this. If I go, you know, back to, well, this view here, it, you know, it just really sort of makes a lot of sense with this, especially with this very, I mean, it's a very formal house with a very formal garden. And, you know, as I looked at this, the thought of having this kind of asymmetrical arrangement doesn't, just seems out of sorts.
Yeah,
Yeah, I will say that we, you know, obviously we did go to zoning and get that approved, and we did share it with all the neighbors, and they were all very supportive. But you know, I know that's your issues are beyond what is merely popular. I understand
well,
that.
no, I mean, it's actually it's a lovely and maybe a handsome structure. I just think that it takes away from the beautiful vista. Both it kind of catches your eye as you're looking up from Old Academy to the home, and then it also with this piece of property that's got so much land, it seems to be unfortunately close to Hillside Road.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not within the zoning regulations. It just from a historic district perspective, it seems to be not ideal.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a fair point, Chris. And I'd say, I mean, a couple things, and I know you don't take planting into consideration, but you could see how heavy the issue that border that the street is planted. In fact, these are all very mature plantings, and so the views that you would actually see through here are limited, most of the year or much of the year, and but beyond that, and I know that you have to look beyond what is temporary in plantings, and I think there is, you know, as you move around this, you do understand this as part of the continued formal gesture of the house, and so it is, and I think that's one of the reasons why, um, you know, when we did this, we looked to create something that would be very in keeping with the stylings of the colonial revival house and all the attention that's been paid to it over the years, so that it would not seem like an obvious later addition, but really well in keeping and something that could easily have always been there.
And you know, I think the brick clad or brick veneer foundation probably works with the brick pavers in the formal garden, and then I think perhaps on the house as well.
Mhm.
But because it sticks out of the ground so far, as you're looking up the hill from Old Academy, it just seems like a lot of brick. And I wondered if you have maybe, I know there's also some gorgeous fieldstone walls on the property. I wondered if you thought about maybe what that would look like as a fieldstone veneer
We've given
foundation.
that, yeah, that's a interesting point. We've given that consideration. The brick was specifically a request by the client. Although, and the one thing I think we all think that you probably see more foundation than we would prefer, and our expectation is that that there's going to be a bunch of planting around the building to soften the edges of it, but we didn't do that intentionally in our rendering because you know, you're here to approve the building. You're not, it's not really about the plants that might or might not, it's not about putting plants up to block your view of the building. So
I appreciate that.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay, those were my questions.
Thank you, Chris. Jim, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, John, thank you very much. Beautiful piece of property and a beautiful project. Do you know when the pool was put in? Was that in the 1920 timeframe?
No, the pool was later. I think the garden was like the 1930s, and I think the pool was done later. I know the pool was done later, but I don't know when.
Okay, but so it's the pool's origin then is closer to 1990 than 1920.
Yeah, I mean the pool was there when we worked on the building, and it was there when the Urbans purchased the building, I believe. And it's an odd pool, right? It's a very enigmatic shape. It's the most difficult pool to do laps in I've ever seen. But it's been there for quite a while. I'm guessing, you know, perhaps the 50s or 60s it was put in.
Okay. And there was never a pool house there? I'm surprised at that.
No, there was not. Yeah. And
Okay, thank you very much.
I think the
Beautiful
previous owner
presentation.
typically really used it more as a
Lovely
garden
piece of
feature
property.
than a pool. So,
Chris, I hear what you're saying about the emptiness. I completely agree with you. That piece of property is absolutely beautiful. But thank you very much, John. Appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Alisa, do you have any questions?
I don't. It looks beautiful, but no questions.
George, do you have any questions?
John, a great presentation. Thank you very much. I have no questions. It is a spectacular piece of property.
And I don't have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item number 5, Old South Road. Actually, are there any questions or comments from the public on this presentation? Hearing there's none, let's move on to item number 5, Old South Road LLC, 171 Old South Road, Southport, Connecticut, 06890 for a property located at 171 Old South Road, Southport, Connecticut, with items A, cobblestone apron at driveway entrance, B, cobblestone apron at garage doors, C, bluestone pool deck, D, move AC unit. Is there anyone here to present Old South Road?
Rosina, can you hear me? This is Jack Franson. I'm here to represent Fred Ryan, and Fred is the occupant of the house that the LLC entity represents. And I'm here today for request to approve several site improvements. And I'm going to share my screen now, if you could allow me to do so.
Yep.
All right. This is the site plan. And the first item is the proposed apron at the driveway. We're proposing an apron that will be right at the curb cut. It's proposed to be made of reclaimed granite, and I'll show you pictures of that material. The courses are approximately 12 inches wide, and they will be laid according to the town ordinance, which requires that you have an 18-inch separation between the traveled way and the paving, and I think there's a 1.5-inch lip. And the reason for that is to, keep water, from going in and out of driveways. So we're going to follow that reg to the letter. I'm going to go to the sample. This is a skid with a bunch of the stone on it. It's going to be laid up in running bond fashion, and I think we have 5 courses up to from the 18-inch setback up to where the gates begin. The second part of the request is for a stone apron at the garage, which I'm embarrassed to say has already been placed in that area. It's very hard to see. You can see it from the road. You probably can't see what it's made out of, other than you can see that it's different from the native stone driveway. And it's cobbles. The cobbles are approximately 12 inches square. They're not all the same exact size. They're a little bit rough, and they're set in mortar. The second item, also, I'm embarrassed to say, has been installed already. It's also somewhat difficult to see, except you can see it from Old South Road. If you look through here, there's plantings around the mechanicals, but if you look through the fence, through the picket fence, you can probably notice there's a small patio here. It's bluestone. It's the same material as the pool coping. It's 4.5 feet on this side and 8 feet on this side, which is the east side. The fourth part of the application, I'm not sure that this is even visible from a public way, but it's different from what was approved. Originally, we had approved to place a AC unit in this location here. And the reason we didn't put it behind a garage was because of the setback. And subsequently, Mr. Ryan acquired this property to the rear of his property. So now what he did is he did a land swap or an annex of about, I forget, it was like maybe 15 feet or some distance to this, so that this now actually conforms to zoning. So there's a Mitsubishi unit instead of the freestanding AC unit. And that's where it is. It's on the back of the garage. So it's, if anything, less obtrusive than what would have been there, the freestanding unit. That's it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Art, do you have any questions?
No, thank you, Jack.
Darren, do you have any questions?
Nope, none for me. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Chris, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions and then I have a comment. The cobbles that you refer to that are in front of the garage, are they reclaimed cobbles from a road, or were they, do you know?
I think so, because I looked at them today. I hadn't seen them up close. And it looks, they're not all the same. In other words, there's some that they're all granite, but there's some that have like a goldish hue and some that have a grayish hue. So it's definitely not the, that imported Belgian block that you see that's all the same uniform color.
Right. Okay.
I don't know the source of it, but it looks to me like they were taken from somewhere else.
And then the pallets of granite that looks to be old curbing. Do you know, I know in our handbook, it talks about having granite that's machine cut, and that's not something that's considered appropriate. However, I think you will be the one to probably know the answer to this. Up at Greenfield Hill, at the top of Bronson Road and on Old Academy Road, there's a bunch of granite curbing up there, which looks to be machine cut. And I think some of that might have happened when the church house was being built and renovated. Are you familiar with that, Jack? And is this the same?
I have painful memories of that, and I don't know. It was around that time, but it was the Bob Hatch was the chairman of the HDC, and the town came in and put in that curbing, And he went ballistic because they never came to the commission. And it was in Bluestone, you know, if there was going to be curbing, there was never much curbing in Greenfield Hill. And the
Right.
argument, of course, is, you know, you've got to control the water. So Public Works and Engineering, they like having curbing. You know, when I moved to this area, there were no catch basins in Greenfield Hill. There were just culverts. So there was no need for any curbing. And we actually ended up having it was like a Mexican standoff, and we ended up having it diffused. We had a face-to-face meeting with Selectman Flato, and they sort of agreed that it was not the most satisfactory agreement, but it was the town sort of said, okay, from now on, we'll let you know what we're going to do, but we're still going to do what we want to. This curbing is worn, it's aged, it's got, I don't know if you can see, but there's a patina, like there's one side that looks good. So the intent is to use that patinaed side up.
Okay, great. And
And
then
it's not,
thank you for that, because I was always wondering about the Greenfield Hill, and I appreciate that clarification on this material. And then my other
they
comment,
also did it in Southport, Chris, in front of the post office. They did the same thing.
okay,
And I shredded my tires on that right after they put it in.
yeah, it's sharp.
Yeah.
And then my comment is, just out of, I guess, curiosity, why are you coming before the commission after most of this work has been already done?
That's, you know, I can't really explain that, Chris. It's not, the contractor was a contractor who was not familiar with the historic district. He'd never worked in this historic district, and there were a number of situations like this where we would come upon him and his excuse would be, well, the guy was here and he said he wouldn't come back again and the owner requested changes. The contractor in question, was there working and basically said, or maybe it was his boss said, we're not coming back. We're either going to do it or not do it. So was not done correctly. Procedurally, it was not done correctly.
I mean, I would say to that, the owner, I know, has come with you through this commission on a number of occasions, and you guys know. So I mean, the fact that the contractor can claim ignorance is really not a legitimate excuse for not coming before the commission.
Well, there's no excuse. It's just a reason. The reason was, non-compliance.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, do you have any questions or comments? Jim, do you have any questions or comments?
Sorry, no questions, Regina. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Alisa, do you have any questions or comments?
Oops. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. No, I don't.
Thank you. And George, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, Jack, nice presentation. Thank you very much. And I think that everything's fine with me. Thank you.
I have no questions or comments either, so thank you very much.
Okay, Rosina, I just wanted to say, on behalf of the owner, I do apologize for the things that were done inappropriately without getting them approved.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Hearing nothing, we'll move on to the next one. Item 6, Carrie Wilson, 14 Willow Street, Southport, Connecticut, 06890, for a property located at 14 Willow Street, Southport, Connecticut. Item A, repair of wood rot on front porch with wood, and B, replacement of 7 rotted wood columns with identical historically accurate columns of rot-proof Endurostone. Is there anyone? Yep. You're muted.
Here I go. Can you hear me? That's a bad start. Hi, I'm Dan. I'm one of the 2 owners of 14 Willow with my wife Carrie. She had to run off. She had an emergency, but we're okay.
Can you state your last name, please?
Yes, this is Dan Wilson, 14 Willow in Southport. First, we are asking to defer into the next call. We received a letter from an attorney about an hour before this call started, and subsequently contacted our attorney, and they asked if we can defer to the next call. So we were asking for the mercy of the group and permission because we had not spoken to an attorney ahead of time.
Okay. As we did not receive the letter, because I am the acting chairman today and I don't have access to the website, to the email, I believe the best thing to do might be to have a vote and deny without prejudice. That way it kind of moves on to you guys can present again in the future. Will that be something that you guys will entertain?
Are you asking me to present and then? Okay.
No, you don't have to present. We will deny the application when we vote without prejudice. That way you can move on to presenting next month.
Sure. Can I ask a question? Does that affect us in the future that it was previously denied?
No.
No.
Okay. Then
It would,
sure,
it would be
I think
denied.
that's fair.
The motion would be to deny without prejudice, so it wouldn't affect a future application.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. And I'm sorry, it just says Town of Fairfield. I don't know your name. Thank you, Chris and Town of Fairfield. And sorry, we really are embarrassed that we're even in this situation, and we're hoping we can work to get it resolved. And we will do everything appropriate and then resubmit for the next call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks all.
I'm going to ask if there's anyone from the public that would like to comment. However, we will kind of not really do anything other than vote at the end of the application to deny it. But is there anyone from the public?
Yes, if I may, Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Once again, for the record, my name is Joel Green. I represent the Sasquatch Association. The Sasquatch Association, I know you're all familiar with it, for 125 years preserved the historic character of Southport. They, for a variety of reasons, the board had prepared a letter, and for a variety of reasons, it wasn't submitted till this afternoon. And I apologize for that. I did, as soon as it was filed, I reached out to Carrie Wilson because we always want proceedings to be fair, and I explained to her that the Sasquatch Association had concerns. We had a very cordial conversation. We are interested in working on these issues, and I had suggested to her that she might want to consult with counsel. In fact, I encouraged her to reach out to the association because the association is always open to a dialogue regarding these sorts of matters. And I just want to emphasize to the commission that, A, I apologize for the late submission of the letter, but B, I want to emphasize that we were really trying to be, and I made an effort to reach out to Mrs. Wilson, and you know, the proceedings of this commission are obviously bound by the rules of fundamental fairness, and I wanted to be fair and provide the applicant with an opportunity to respond. And I appreciate the commission's indulgence in continuing this matter, even though I represent a party responding. And finally, I had a real technical problem before when I was trying to address the commission, and I appreciate your patience.
Thank you very much. Let's move on. If anyone is not talking, they need to be muted because there's a lot of echo. Thank you. We'll move on then to the consideration of the public hearings for items 1 through 9.
Jim, you got to mute.
I think it's one of the call-in users and they can't mute.
Okay.
It looks like there's a couple other non-mutes just on the.
Yeah, if everyone could mute, we will appreciate it. Okay. Hold on. Let's try this again. So we'll move on to the consideration of the public hearings for items 1 through 6. Again, the voting order for alternates is Bowen Clark Stack. Let's start with Town of Fairfield, 370 Old Post Road, 725 Old Post Road, and 611 Old Post Road, Fairfield, Connecticut, for a property located at 370 Old Post Road, 725 Old Post Road, and 611 Old Post Road. A, proposed paving for added parking space, improved egress from property. B, roadway stripping and crosswalks for improved pedestrian safety. And C, proposed sidewalk for improved pedestrian access. Is there anyone that have a motion? Was I muted? Okay. So let's try this again. The first project, Town of Fairfield.
Rosina, we heard you. You weren't muted. We heard you. I think everyone was just kind of hesitating on whether to make a motion or not.
Okay. Is there anyone that has a motion, at least for discussion?
I will go ahead and make a motion to deny this application without prejudice. During the presentation, I felt as though there weren't enough details, and I'd like to see more detail and more clarification in a future presentation.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Anyone else has any comments? Jim, you're voting on this one. Hearing that there's no comments, let's go ahead and vote. Is there anyone in favor of this application?
Of the motion,
The motion,
Yep.
yes.
the motion.
And the motion is deny without prejudice. Items A, B, and C. So we have everyone. Okay, thank you. The second item, Graham and Catherine Nitt, 160 Harbor Road, Southport, Connecticut, for a property located at 160 Harbor Road. Item A, install path lights at front path, and B, install lights at driveway. Is there anyone that has a motion?
Art will move to approve items A and B as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any comments? Hearing that we have no comments, let's go ahead and vote for the motion. Approve as presented. Items A, install path lights at front path, and B, install lights at driveway. This one will be Clark voting. George, are you voting on this application?
You're muted.
Oh, yeah. Up.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So everyone's
Sorry.
voted in favor of the application.
Forgive me.
I will send this one to Chris.
Okay, so Rosina is recused on this application. And who are the alternates that are voting on this application, just so we have the record? Alyssa and
It will be Alyssa and Jim.
Alyssa and Jim are voting. Okay. All right. So the application is David and Tina Montani, 920 Old Post Road in Fairfield, for property located at 920 Old Post Road in Fairfield. Items A, remove existing shed and basketball court. B, construct new single-family house and detached garage. C, install new asphalt driveway. D, install new fence along front of property. E, install new brick stoop and walkways. And F, install new AC condensing units. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept as presented so that we can discuss it.
Is there a second on that motion?
Yeah, Art does.
Okay, so Alyssa made the motion to approve as presented and Art seconded the motion. Do we have discussion?
I guess I can start if nobody else wants to. So I've listened to all this testimony. I saw it when it first came to us in January or February, whenever it was. And I know it's not within our jurisdiction to discuss conforming, not conforming, and that's not where my issues have ever lay. My biggest issues is with the design of the house. The design of the house is lovely, just not, I don't think it's speaking to the defining characteristics of this particular area. The house itself feels a little bit like a mismatch of various different periods in architectural history, which is not something that really is spoken to on that part of the street or on that street at all. A lot of the houses that are earlier are more vernacular styles. They're not high styles, and there's no Greek revival elements at all on that street. So that gable front roof with the pediment, I don't care how simple it is, it's not in conforming with the defining characteristics of that neighborhood design wise. I appreciate that the garage was moved to the back. I think that was a much better change. in terms of the width of the house, there are wide houses on that street. I 100% acknowledge that. But the houses that are wider on that street range and date from probably, I guess, the mid to late 19th century to the 1920s and 30s. The earlier houses on that street, which this style really is looking to be Federal Greek Revival, like 1820, 1830s area, are thinner houses. They're just more compact. I mean, the one exception to that is, I think it's 1005. I think that's the number of the house. It's a greenhouse. It's turned to the side on the lot. But that's kind of a weird vernacular development over time sort of situation. I think it's presenting a lot of design elements that aren't represented on that street. And I understand that, you know, the side lights, the Federal style door, all of that, I don't really have a problem with, but it's the introduction of new elements that aren't represented, and kind of looking at the other houses and kind of taking bits and pieces from all the other designs and mashing them together. I think it's very inconsistent, and it would present a very inconsistent streetscape with that side of the road. That's all I gotta say. I'm off my soapbox.
I will say that I understand, Darren, your comments on the architecture of the home, and I appreciate them. My take on it was, even though the lot and the building proposed on the lot conform to the zoning regulations, they push the limits of them. You know, they're on the front yard setback, and they're very close to the side yard setbacks. Because the configuration of the existing lot makes it really challenging to fit a 2,500 square foot house on that piece of property. That's because the back of the lot is so narrow. You can't really build anything back there. I think that you know, there was discussion about the, you know, the arborvitaes or whatever types of hedges are in the front now. And yeah, they're blocking an existing basketball court, but we can't consider vegetation in our, you know, in our deliberations. What we consider is what the application is going to be, and envisioning the application and the home at 30 feet, at the 30-foot proposed setback, it is going to significantly block the side elevation of the neighbor's home, the adjacent home, from a public way. And it also does feel, for lack of a better word, maybe shoehorned into that piece of property, and not in keeping with the fabric of the street and the neighborhood.
Can I ask a question about that setback? Because it was flying all over the place and I think I lost myself. They are proposing a 30-foot setback. I went into the handbook to try to find the exact language about setbacks and the historic district, and I can't find it.
Yeah, it's Alyssa, the setback is a zoning issue. It's not an HDC issue.
Okay.
So we wouldn't even be seeing this application if it didn't meet the zoning regulations, because they have to approve it before it even comes to us. So it does meet the zoning requirements. The objections by the neighbors are that you know, the average setback on that street is 45 to 60 feet.
I see. Okay.
And so this one's being proposed at 30 feet. Even though that's conforming, it's a lot closer to the street than most of the homes, with the exception of the one that's right next to it, which is 15 feet, but it, you know, it predates
everything.
Right.
Everything.
And the argument they were making is if they go back as far as needed, because it is a weird sort of property line, they wouldn't be able to fit a house in there.
So it's a jurisdictional issue. We don't really have jurisdiction over that kind of stuff. What they're saying is that there's a backlot setback.
I see.
And
Okay.
if they pushed it back to 50 feet off the road, they'd only have 5 feet width to build a house in.
Thank you. Okay, that clarifies. Thank you.
So let me ask you,
And
Darren
you're
and Chris, because you spoke on the issue, whether it's meets the fabric, I think Chris said, and Darren, you mentioned the vernacular, because just when these people come back, if they do, well, I guess what I wanted to say, I think part of our job in executive session is you know, not just to decide, but to, you know, give our reasons for, you know, where we see this. So, you know, addressing your previous comments, what can you both provide some more details on, you know, what would make this house more in keeping with the fabric of that historic neighborhood?
Chris, do you want to go first, or do you want me to tackle
I
it?
mean, mine is kind of simple. You know, again, it's not a zoning issue. It's a kind of a scale and mass and location issue with respect to the adjacent homes. And number one, on that section of the old post road, all of the homes are set back 45 feet, with the exception of the one home that is 15 feet off of the street, but it's the old home that survived the burning of Fairfield by the British. But the other issue is that because this home is proposed at 30 feet, it's going to block a lot of the view. Jim, I think you're, anyway, it's going to block out of the view of the side of that home, which would be unfortunate. And so mine is kind of scale and mass and location with respect to the fabric of the existing homes on the street. Not so much style, and that's Darren is more stylistically discussing.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what Darren has to say about that, because I seem to recall one of the public comments was maybe a cape would be, you know, suitable or something, but you know, these people also have a right to build something as what, like Attorney Russo said, this is their property and they have a right to build within the footprint. I get that massing still matters, notwithstanding it's conforming, but you know, the blocking of a view is relevant. But you know, I just want to put it to Darren, what might be more appropriate given, you know, given the lot size and the setback and the fabric of the neighborhood, as you said.
I want to see a cohesive presentation. Right now, I look at that house and I see elements of a bunch of different styles, which in and of itself is not necessarily an issue, because over time houses evolve. There's introductions of new stylistic elements that aren't present in that area. So it's introducing a new style with different meanings to that district. It's taking notes from different houses on that street, and that street is really composed of, for the most part, I think I can think of, and I'm going through it on my head, I'm not physically looking at it, so forgive me if I mistake a house, but like of those properties on that street. There's only one that I can think of that really shows kind of a weird sort of vernacular development. And I think that's number 1005. It's a greenhouse. The rest of them you look at and you go, that's stylistically Italianate. That's colonial revival. That's federal. That's this, that's that. And they're kind of like a period centric look. And you can look at that style and say those arched windows, the double arched windows is very 1850 to 1870. It's very Italianate, or whatever the case may be. It's very period specific. And the house that's being presented has a bunch of different styles that they've kind of mashed together and then taken notes on these other houses and combined to make this one house. What I would really love and kind of really relish is if the applicants come in a pre-application meeting so we can have like a proper discussion about it and a really good back and forth without the pressure of having to vote, and just be able to have a really open dialogue on what is appropriate and what design elements are very much defining characteristics for this area. I think that they're coming with the design with the best of intentions. I just think that there's so many different stylistic elements that are being proposed. It, to me, as an architectural historian, looks very like jumbled. And I think it's a very discordant look for the rest of the streetscape. That's my issue with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful. And I wanted whoever's listening out there and the public and the parties to know that, because it's, I don't know how we're going to vote here right now, but they do deserve to know, you know, what, if any, considerations we're looking at. That's our job as a historic district. And I'm glad you said that the applicants and their representatives are, you know, have good intentions, because I heard some comments that I didn't appreciate, frankly, about predatory development and trying to maximize profit. I didn't hear one element of that from the applicants and their representatives. So I just think we're here to be helpful. I do encourage the parties to be collaborative. So you know, we get a result that's, you know, conforms to what we're trying to do here. But, you know, I just, if it were me, I'd strike from the record any, you know, anything about predatory development and, you know, this other scare tactics. It doesn't belong here.
I mean, personally, on a personal note, I don't have a problem with removing the existing shed and basketball court. I really don't have a problem with that. It's making sure that we're not affecting the streetscape or changing the meaning of the development of that area over time. As I said, I don't think, you know, I don't look at these applicants as having any malicious intent. I think they're coming, they're obviously trying to make changes. They moved that garage, they moved that where the house was. I appreciate that. They were listening to what we were saying. I think that, you know, I don't know how we're going to vote. Me personally, I would love to have a pre-application meeting, maybe a site visit so we can actually physically see the site, because I think it's a little bit different. Right now, there's arborvitaes up there. It's hard to really get a sense of proportions and width and whatever without trespassing on private land. And I think that, sorry? Oh, I thought somebody said something. And so, I mean, that's kind of my perspective. I would relish that ability to have that discussion, particularly a discussion on site, or, you know, even in an environment like this where we can just openly discuss. I would, you know, it's all about, what's the word? It starts with this. I'm sick, so I don't feel great. My brain's not quite working right. But it's about compatible development. It's not a predatory thing in my head. It's about finding that compatibility that really helps everybody involved.
Okay, so I'm going to just try to move this discussion along a little bit. So there is a motion on the table to approve this application as presented. It was seconded. We've been discussing it. Is there any further discussion on this motion?
Can I perhaps amend the motion to deny without prejudice, A through, I don't remember, F, all the elements.
I think what we should do is vote on the motion that's on the table. And then, Art, could you unmute yourself?
Yeah, sorry, Chris. I just thought maybe if she withdrew the motion, we could propose an amended motion and vote on that for judicial economy.
Okay, thinking Robert's Rules of Order, I'd rather see that motion that was seconded dismissed by a vote and then have a new motion. Okay,
Sure.
so all those in favor of the motion to approve items A through F as presented, those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Jim, did you raise your hand? No. Okay. Jim's muted, but I don't think he meant to raise his hand. I see no one voting
Oh,
in
you're right.
favor of that motion. Okay, so that motion, all those.
I did not intend to vote yes.
Okay, all those that are opposed to that motion, please signify by raising your hand. It's unanimous, so that motion fails. Is there a new motion?
Can I make a motion? I'd like to approve A and deny without prejudice B through F, is it?
Okay, is there a second for that motion?
Yeah, I'll do that, Chris.
Can I?
Art seconds that motion.
I don't have the application up in front of me. Which one was A?
Sorry, I'm saying that to approve removing the existing shed and basketball court and deny without prejudice everything else.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay, that motion was seconded by Art. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, which is to approve item A and deny items B, C, D, E, and F without prejudice. All in favor? That motion carries unanimously. So that motion has passed. The voting of this application has been completed, and we're back to having Rosina take the reins.
So let's move on to number 4, Eric and Heather Malin, 1386 Hillside Road, Fairfield, Connecticut, for a property located in 1386 Hillside Road. Item A, new one-story pool house. Is there anyone that wants to make a motion? For discussion purposes.
I'll motion to approve as presented.
Rosina, who the alternates?
The alternate on this one is George, yourself.
Just confirming. And I'll second your motion.
Is there any?
Yeah, I have some discussion. So I think that as I stated during the presentation, I think that the pool house itself is lovely, and I think it's a nice, attractive pool house by itself. However, as it sits on the property, I do not believe it's appropriate. I think it's out of scale, and it's not sited in a location that I think it takes away from the beauty of the property. So I'm not going to vote in favor of this application. Or I'm sorry, I'm not going to vote in favor of this motion.
I have similar views to Chris, and also the brick foundation or base, knowing that there were no other they didn't look into other materials. Maybe they could explore some other options with the materials. So.
Oh, sorry, Rosina, are you done? May I jump in?
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
I personally think it's beautifully designed. And I understand everybody's objection to the obstruction of the vista. On kind of a historical note, this isn't necessarily out of the realm of possibility, because at that time, follies were really big in estates. However, I personally would really love to know a little more of the historic story of the development of the site. If, for example, aerial photographs were pulled from 1934 and 1950 and that tennis pavilion was on that exact spot, I would love to know, because that would significantly alter the presentation of what's being presented here. And it might allude to, the original designs that were presented and accepted by Cameron Clark and Agnes Selkirk, who did a lot of work over in that area. And I think it would, maybe re-establishing something in that exact spot is more of a revitalization and a reconstruction of that original master plan. So I would really love a little bit more of a historic background. Personally.
Anyone else?
Just a comment from me. I think from a scale point of view, it appears a little bit big for what I guess the way it interrupts the vista. It bothers me. Yeah, it would be interesting to see if it's consistent with where Agnes and Cameron planned the original tennis building. I know that property pretty well. I know the Urbans. It is a spectacular lot, and it disrupts my thinking in a way. So I'd like to see something a little bit different.
Can you remind me what the motion
Anyone
is?
else?
Is it just to accept as presented?
Yes.
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 It was for discussion purposes to get it on the table.
Anyone else has any comments or questions? Having no comments, let's go ahead and vote for the motion as presented to approve item A, new one-story pool house as presented. Anyone in favor? Anyone against the motion? Okay. Anyone has a different motion that wants to be presented?
Can I motion to deny without prejudice? And then if they come back with more historical background, we can reconsider?
I'll second that. I'll second that.
Let's go ahead and vote. Anyone in favor of the motion? Anyone against? Okay. The motion passes as denied without prejudice. The next one, Old South Road LLC, 171 Old South Road, Southport, for property located at 171 Old South Road in Southport. A, cobblestone apron at driveway entrance. B, cobblestone apron at garage doors. C, bluestone pool deck. and D, move AC unit. And this one, Alyssa will be voting on. Anyone has a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the application as presented.
Yeah, Art will second Chris's motion.
Okay. Any discussion? No discussion. Let's go ahead and vote. The motion is to approve as presented the cobblestone apron at driveway entrance, cobblestone apron at garage doors, bluestone pool deck, and move AC unit. Anyone in favor of this motion? Alyssa, you're voting on this one?
I didn't realize I was voting. Sorry. I will vote on that one. Yes. I'm also doing dinner.
Multitasking.
So everyone is in favor of this motion. And the last one, Terry Wilson, 14 Willow Street, Southport, Connecticut, 06890 for a property located at 14 Willow Street, Southport, Connecticut. Item A, repair of wood rod in the front porch with wood, and B, replacement of 7 rotted wood columns with identical, historically accurate columns of rot-proof Endurastone.
I have a question before I
motion?
make some motion. I know we said we could deny this without prejudice, but can we also motion to table it to next time? Would that be more beneficial for the applicant? Because then there's no having to resubmit the application.
Reapply.
That's a much better.
Is there any reason why we can't do that? Do you know?
Well, I brought that up.
Oh, maybe I just didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I mean, I guess it's the same thing.
They just don't have to reapply then.
It's just, what happens if somebody doesn't come up to present an item? Does it get continued to the next?
It gets denied without prejudice. If there's no presentation.
But they were here. It just seems like we would be punishing them to have to reapply if they just want to table it, which is what they asked us for. And I'm sorry if you said that before and I totally didn't hear you.
I don't know if tabling it would satisfy, Chris, the notice requirements.
It wouldn't. It would need to be renoticed anyways, because
I mean, the agenda would have to be noticed regardless.
So I would think the cleanest thing for us to do would be, as we intended, is to vote and deny without prejudice.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. So anyone has a motion?
I will motion to deny the application without prejudice.
Okay, anyone second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Can we vote? Anyone in favor of deny without prejudice the application for 14 Willow Street? And in this one, Jim, you're voting.
Take that as a yes.
Thank you very much. So we have all of them. We're going to move on to approval of minutes. The minutes from 069/2022. We have Gravanis, Shea, Bohan, Clark, and myself. Anyone wants to make the motion?
Motion to approve.
To approve the minutes. Art, is that you?
That's me, Rosina.
I'll second it. Art's
Okay.
good.
Art and George, let's vote. Again, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. The next thing is the repairs. The list of repairs is as follows. 111 Old Post Road, replace asphalt shingle roof in kind. 303 Beach Road, repair windows. 388 Old Post Road, repair mortar in stone walls, bluestone stylobate, and joints on entrance terrace. And there were no violations. The old business will be the handbook. Do you have anything, Darren?
So I finished all the changes that we all discussed at the special meeting. I know that I asked Chris, and I know you haven't had a second to do it, to look at the addresses just to make sure that they were all correct. I also, thank you. I also sent Adam the revised copy to just double check the formatting, because I was having problems with formatting, and he has a question to follow up on with the P&Z department about, or building department about final inspections. And then I know we need to redo the maps. I'm just trying to get in touch with the appropriate person to do that, because I cannot do it. I don't have access enough to the GIS system. And then once we finish that, we can put it out on a public meeting and, you know, have the residents of the districts, you know, ask questions, propose changes, discuss it.
Yeah, and Darren, thanks for all the work on it. I do have a copy of it. I actually went and had a hard copy printed because, and I have it with me right here. To me, it's a lot easier to just flip the page and look at it side. So I'm going to work on that this weekend.
Great.
One of the things I was thinking about, there were the two new homes that were built recently in Southport in the Village. Do we have descriptions of those for the handbook? One of them was built, the architect was Jack Franzen, and the other one was a former commissioner, who, hang on just a second. Margaret Kufferman was was designer of that home. I wonder if we have written descriptions of those homes for the handbook. And then the other new home that's being built right now on Old South, the architect is Tanner White. We should probably include those in the new handbook. And the home that used to be on the property that the house is being built from Tanner White that was moved, that needs to also be noticed in the handbook as well. Those are some that I'm aware of. So
Not a problem. I mean, I can write descriptions for them, or we can ask the architects to quickly do it. It doesn't take too much time.
Okay.
That's a good point.
The one on Old South is, or the one on Willow is Jack Franzen as well. So Jack could probably take care of it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
That's it for me.
So thank you for the update. And then any new business?
So Rosina, I know there was one comment about the special meeting minutes. Did we want to try to get those approved tonight, or do we not have enough people?
We do have enough people. I simply forgot to ask the question at the beginning of the meeting if there were any proposed changes to the agenda. So we can right now if
I believe we have to motion to add it and get a 2/3 vote.
Yes.
To the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, then maybe we should not bring that up tonight and just do that next time.
I'm happy to make the motion if everybody's willing to, you know, entertain it. It'll take 2 seconds.
Okay.
I motion to add the approval of the minutes from the June 8th, 2022 special meeting to the agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay. And the ones that were present for that meeting were Darren, Chris, Jim, and myself. So let's go ahead and vote. Yes.
Jim, you're voting.
Jim.
You're voting on the special meeting of the handbook.
Okay, I haven't looked at those minutes, I'm sorry, so I really can't vote on it.
We're
Okay.
voting to add it to the agenda.
To add it, yes, fine.
Okay. So everyone agreed, it's added to the agenda. What about to vote to approve those minutes?
I'll motion to
Darren?
approve those minutes.
I'll second that.
Second? Let's go ahead and vote. So again, Darren, Chris, Jim, and myself. Anyone in favor of that motion? Okay, 3 of us. Anyone against the motion? Jim, are you in favor or against?
I haven't read those minutes, so I really can't vote on it.
So
So I'm
he's abstaining.
Yeah.
Okay, you're abstaining.
3 votes.
Perfect. And one thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting as well is that Adam Cliver was not present at this meeting. So with all of that, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Can I, before
Hold
we
on.
move to adjourn, I just wondered, it's not on the agenda, but I'm wondering if there's an update on the Pequot Library storage containers.
Oh.
It keeps
Okay.
falling off the agenda.
George, do you have anything?
I put a call into Stephanie today. I believe there was a conversation between Stephanie and Adam, and they, I don't want to speak for them, but it was told that the decision was made to paint the containers and to put up some arborvitaes to bury it. That's the best they could do. You couldn't come up with a solution for moving them or relocating the materials in the containers.
Are they going to come before the HDC with a application for a certificate of appropriateness?
I guess I don't know what Adam said to Stephanie, but I guess I could certainly, I'll speak to Adam when he's back, and we can tell him they need to. Just that's fine.
Okay.
I think good point, Chris.
Thanks for that update, George. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry that I couldn't. I wanted to go look at it today, but to be honest with you, I think I'm in the same boat with a couple of other people. I've been visited by that bug called COVID, so I'm staying home.
Oh,
well, stay home. And
sorry to hear that.
Feel better.
That's all right. I think seems to be a big number lately.
Rosina, I have one more thing, if I may, Chris.
Okay.
The 14 Willow Street request, which we're going to look at next time, that called for something called Endurostone, which is a fiberglass reinforced polymer. And has anyone here any experience with that? Because I Googled it and I said, Endurostone historic districts, and I found a finding by the Saratoga Springs Historic District approving Endurostone for a wall.
I don't know that we can have this conversation.
Are we allowed to have this conversation now?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Oh, okay.
We're not.
So let's hold our thoughts, and when the application comes back, we can discuss it in the meeting. Okay.
Fair enough.
So let's go ahead, and if anyone has a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Darren?
Second.
And Alyssa seconds.